the air tonight with two more bombshell rulings from the Supreme Court. What the ruling against President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan means for college education, and how the decision in favor of a web designer opposed to working with same-sex couples could be a watershed moment for LGBTQ rights in America. We're going to break it all down. Then, the biggest holiday travel weekend of the year is finally here, and it could be record-setting. What you need to know about huge pileups of delays and a so-called ring of fire weather pattern. Fox News again paying out big tonight, what the media giant will now have to hand over after settling a pair of lawsuits from a former producer. In tonight's original, we're just hours away from one of the strictest immigration laws in the country going into effect, how Florida's new policies will impact businesses and workers. And in our backstory tonight, an NPR reporter tells us how he got the scoop on a scam crypto investing company, one that led one man to lose his entire life savings. That's later in the show. Hey, everybody, I'm Lindsay Reiser in for Hallie, and tonight we're going to begin with the outrage and applause to two monumental rulings just into us from the Supreme Court. The justices killing the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness program that would have erased more than $400 billion in student loan debt. The court also ruled in favor of a Christian web designer who wants to refuse to work on same-sex weddings, which critics fear could have major ripple effects on LGBTQ rights in this country. A dramatic ending to the court's term, with both decisions split on ideological lines that will impact millions of Americans. The president saying in just the last 45 minutes that his fight over student loans isn't over, even laying out some new actions from his administration, like lowering the income-based loan payment cap and removing some penalties for non-payment for a year. President Biden also taking aim at Republicans.
The money was literally about to go out the door. And then Republican elected officials and special interests stepped in. They said, no, no. Literally snatching from the hands of millions of Americans thousands of dollars in student debt relief that was about to change their lives.
On the other side, major figures in the Republican Party are celebrating. 2024 candidate Nikki Haley tweeting the court was, quote, right to throw out Joe Biden's power grab when it comes to student loans. And former VP Mike Pence is calling the now axed White House plan a, quote, egregious violation of the Constitution. Our NBC News team is covering all of this. Brewster is on the ground in Chicago. Senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett joins us as well. Let's go ahead and begin with Julia Ainsley. So, Julia, let's start on student loans. We've been waiting on this ruling for months now. Walk us through what this decision from the court means, and also how these brand new comments from the president fit into that.
Well, it's a nail in the coffin in the route that the Biden administration first took. They were leaning on something called the HEROES Act. That was a 2003 law enacted by Congress to allow people to have some student loan debt forgiveness after 9/11. Then that continued again during COVID. The Trump administration and the Biden administration temporarily forgave student loan debt and allowed borrowers not to have their interest accrue during that period. But they were set to start repaying this fall. And in fact, now they will have $20,000 more added to that because the Supreme Court said the HEROES Act did not allow President Biden to take that route. In fact, he's going beyond what the statute would allow. This is from the majority opinion written by Chief Justice John Roberts. He says the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness program would give the Secretary of Education, quote, virtually unlimited power to rewrite federal law. And so that is why now the Biden administration is taking a different approach. It's an approach that might take longer. They're leaning on that 1965 Higher Education Act. That's what basically gave us higher education system as we know it in the United States. And Title IV allows the Secretary of Education to administer loans in order for people to be able to afford to go to college. It really has the reason why we have so many people with access to higher education in the first place. And it could be a longer route, though, to get there. I will also point to the dissent from Justice Kagan. She is saying that it's actually the overreach is not by the Biden administration, but by the court. The court's first overreach in this case is deciding it at all, she said. It blows through a constitutional guardrail intended to keep courts acting like courts. Justice Kagan said that the states in this case were not able to show injury, which would have meant that they didn't have standing, that they shouldn't have come forward to make this case in the first place. Lindsay?
Let's also talk about that second case, the same-sex wedding web design case. This is similar but different to a 2018 case in which the court narrowly sided with a Christian baker who refused to make a wedding cake for a gay couple. I mean, that case didn't answer the question of whether, what businesses can say when it comes to free speech, when it comes to what people say is discrimination. How did the justices rule this time around?
Yeah, there seems to be a disagreement between the conservative majority and the 3 liberal dissenters over who exactly needs protection in this case. The conservative justices said that it was the website designer, Lori Smith, who, although she's never actually been asked to design a wedding website for a gay couple, she does have gay clients that she does other websites for, and she was worried if they asked her to do that, that would go against her biblically held beliefs that a marriage is a union between a man and a woman. Justice Gorsuch wrote the majority opinion on this one. He said the First Amendment envisions the United States as a rich and complex place where all persons are free to think and speak as they wish, not as the government demands. And we understand in court today, as he summarized this opinion, he said, look, what if the shoes were flipped and you had someone who was gay designing websites and you had someone who was anti-LGBT? Would they be asked to design a website for those people that would go against their beliefs? But in the dissent, Justice Sotomayor said that today is a sad day in American constitutional law and the lives of LGBT people. She called it heartbreaking and profoundly wrong because she said here the rights that are being violated are those of LGBT people. Lindsay.
All right, Julie Ainsley, busy day for you. Thank you so much for your time. Let's bring in NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett. Busy day for you as well.
Oh, yes. This is our Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know. So let's talk about first the website designer case and some of the issues that were at play. I mean, free speech was cited in this, and some advocates are saying this opens the floodgates to different kinds of discrimination. I mean, what's your read here on what this does?
I completely understand that perspective. However, I think it is worth grappling with what the state did here. And the state made a number of concessions, and you wonder if they hadn't done that, whether the case would have come out differently. So what I mean by that is the state conceded that she's a public accommodation. Why? She's not a restaurant. She's not a caterer. She's a website designer. The statute's supposed to apply to people who are public accommodations, businesses that are open to everybody. The types of businesses that we think about in terms of the Civil Rights Act, you can't discriminate. That was number one. They also conceded that she's making art, whereas you heard Justice Kagan at length at oral argument say, she's not making art. This is an off-the-shelf product. And if she's making off-the-shelf product, again, then that's not entitled to the same free speech rights. It's not entitled to the same protection that they've given her. But because the state conceded all those things, I think it made it much easier for Justice Gorsuch to say she gets a win here.
All right, let's talk about the student loans as well. I mean, we heard the president lay out some plans here for some more executive actions. The way that the majority opinion was written, are they essentially punting it to Congress? They're saying this is a congressional issue?
No, they're saying if you were going to do this, you need to have a law that gave you explicit congressional authorization. They're not saying this is on Congress to do. They're saying, President, you can use a different federal law, but you need to get one that's crystal clear about your authority. And that's why the president today, you heard him at the podium say, we're going to go a different route. And you would wonder, why didn't you go that route to begin with? The reason is because it takes a lot longer. The route that he's now decided to use as Plan B is going to take significantly longer, if not months to more than a year to go through. And that's why it seems that they didn't do it the first time. But the Supreme Court today said you don't get to take a shortcut.
All right, Laura Jarrett on the Super Bowl. Thank you so much. All right, let's go now to Shaq Brewster in Chicago, who's been talking to folks about student loans. So, Shaq, this decision today just comes 24 hours after the justices struck down affirmative action. What are people telling you?
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that because some people have connected those two issues, especially people who disagree with the Supreme Court's decision today. The big thing that I hear is that this is going to impact people. You look at the numbers, you know, about 26 million people applied for some level of forgiveness, the Education Department approving that for 16 million people. So for those people, their payments are still going to restart in the fall. And that's why you have that divide among people, those who were banking on this now saying it makes it harder, and those who opposed it saying that they're happy that this relief is not coming. Listen to some of those conversations I've been having.
I was like, oh damn, now I gotta reevaluate a bunch of stuff.
We paid them all. They made contracts with the government. They should pay off their loan.
We were actually expecting that that's going to crush us financially. It gave me a lot of respect towards the president. So really showed me that he's fighting for the American people.
And you say this is someone who didn't vote
Hey, look at what, I mean.
Yeah, someone that didn't.
So I respect him gratefully.
That last example is so interesting because it shows that it's not just along partisan lines. We know that polling showed if you received loans, if you were going to benefit from this, you were more likely to approve of what President Biden did by forgiving or trying to forgive some of those loans. The opposite is also true. So very mixed reactions here, really representing the divide that we've been seeing both in polling and in response and reaction to what the president tried to do, but the court blocked earlier today.
Shaq Brewster, thank you so much. There's a lot of other news going on right now. I mean, we're at the start of a holiday weekend, the busiest travel day of the holiday weekend in full swing. The TSA expecting a potentially record-setting 2.82 million people to go through airports today alone. But some pretty bad storms, being called a ring of fire, could put a wrench in plans. Overall, an all-time record of 50 million Americans are expected to get away this weekend. That includes by train, cars, and the like. Some airports have already seen a lot of trouble today. There have been 370 flights canceled, another 4,500 delayed. Of course, that's far from the crazy numbers we've seen over the past few days, but it's still not what people want to hear. Oh, and that ring of fire we mentioned, well, look at your screen. This is the area that's impacted. It is fueled by a huge heat dome, if you will, which creates this massive, well, ring of storms above it. Today, more than 20 million people in that area are facing serious threat of storms, and tonight could be a replay of last night where we saw heavy rain and hail in Denver, floods leaving cars stranded. Plus, almost a third of the country is still seeing this really bad air quality from the smoke from Canada's wildfires. You can see that haze in Detroit and Philly and Reagan National Airport. It could impact travel and how people celebrate the holiday weekend. So George Solis is out at Newark Airport in New Jersey. That airport, of course, a hub for United. They've seen a lot of issues. George, how's it looking today? Where are the problem points?
Yeah, Lindsay, misery loves company, and there's lots of it to go around, unfortunately. The cancellations and delays slightly better than what we've seen, but it is still of little comfort for those passengers and those travelers that have been delayed days, hours, many of them telling me they really have little to no other recourse if they can't book a flight till after the holiday. Some telling me, you know what, we can't get rental cars, so we're going to go ahead and pack a U-Haul and try to drive to our destination. So that's how serious it's gotten. That's, of course, for those traveling domestically. Those traveling internationally say they are hoping that they can make these last evening flights to get to their destinations. And, of course, many wondering if this is just really the tip of the iceberg of what's to come this summer. Really, travelers feel like they just can't catch a break. As you mentioned, we have the wildfires contributing to some ground stops, fortunately none that we saw today. And then you have the wicked weather, right? That's always the wild card when it comes to travel. It's just unfortunate that it falls during this particularly potentially record-breaking holiday travel period. Take a listen to my conversation with one traveler who really just kind of explains it best.
Now, if our flight doesn't leave tomorrow, I don't know what we're going to do. All of us who've been stranded here for multiple days honestly need compensation. I need something to make up for this. I'm out money physically.
And that's really the reality, Lindsay, right? A lot of people aren't just wasting vacation. For some, they are trying to get back to work. Other people have their cars in long-term parking. So these are added costs now, contributing to the overall big picture of this travel nightmare for many. And you mentioned, right, we have a lot of people traveling, 50 million Americans traveling 50 miles or so from their home. That is obviously a potentially record-breaking number for this particular travel period. You also have many, as you mentioned, going by car and then taking the train, taking cruises. So overall, big picture here, lots of people traveling, a lot of people, unfortunately, not having the best go at it, Lindsay.
And you said some people just throwing stuff in a U-Haul and driving. What about people driving by car? That's expected to hit record numbers. What should people know?
Yeah, so we're going to try and help you out a little bit here and just give you a guidance as far as when to go, when to stay, because at this point, a lot of travelers feel they need all the help they can get. So generally speaking, what you want to know is that, you want to leave really early in the morning or anytime after 6. Now, during the holiday period, there's going to be minimal traffic around the 2nd and the 3rd. On July 4th itself, between noon and 3, there's the worst travel time, anytime before 11, after 6, best travel time. And on the 5th, 3 to 6 p.m., avoid it. Best travel time before 2 p.m. again, as I said earlier here, misery loves company. A lot of people strapping in for what they hope won't be too bad of a travel period, but unfortunately it is shaping up to be that. Lindsay?
Hope not. All right, George, thank you so much. We're going to get much more on this ring of fire in a couple of minutes as well. But we want to also turn to what we're learning about a fired Fox News producer who just settled a pair of lawsuits against the network and former host Tucker Carlson for $12 million, according to her attorney. Abby Grossberg claims she was harassed and set up as a scapegoat in the Dominion voting system's defamation case against Fox News. Remember, that's the lawsuit Fox settled for $787 million right before the trial was going to start. Grossberg claims Fox fired her for going public with her claims and said Fox News was a toxic, misogynistic environment. Fox News denied the allegations, and in response to today's settlement, the company said, quote, "We are pleased that we have been able to resolve this matter without further litigation." So let's bring in senior reporter Jane Tim. Jane, we just read Fox's statement. Break down all of this for us and what we know about the settlement.
Lindsay, I think the most critical fact here is that Fox News saw some significant legal liability in Grossberg's claims. While initially they had dismissed it and said that she was a sort of disgruntled employee who had been fired, $12 million settlement suggests that there was some liability in her and heft to her claims. Let's take a look at what she said this morning. We also know that she's not retracting her claims. She's not sort of suggesting that she was wrong. She said that she's heartened that Fox News took her claims seriously. And that she thinks she's optimistic about the future of the network.
So reading here the statement, I mean, yeah, you're right. She didn't have to basically withdraw anything. Maybe that was part of the settlement. Of course, we don't know all the terms. But what's next for Fox here? I mean, they still face an election-related lawsuit. That one's even bigger than Dominion, right?
Yeah, this is the third settlement in the Dominion sort of world against Fox News that I've covered. But there's also the Smartmatic, another voting systems company that has sued for even more money than Dominion settled for, and is bullish about their chances, especially after that $787 million Dominion settlement. You can see on the screen some of this lawsuits. Venezuelan businessman was someone who was ensnared in some of the false claims advanced about a rigged election. Dominion, of course, the big one, Abby Grossberg, sort of the collateral damage that got sort of brought out in that Dominion suit. Smartmatic can go to trial as early as 2025. We'll be watching closely for developments in that.
All right, Jane, thanks for keeping up on that. Appreciate it. Let's get back to the other big story we're following tonight, the weather as we start this holiday weekend and this ring of fire we told you about. Let's bring in Emily Aketa just across the river from New York City. So, Emily, let's talk about this ring of fire. What have we seen? What's to come?
So that so-called ring of fire fueled by humidity and heat, it will be developing later tonight. A couple of the cities that are in the, for lack of better terms, line of fire: Indianapolis, Nashville, Colorado Springs, Louisville, as well as St. Louis. And they could experience some pretty intense winds and hail. In terms of what we have already seen, I'll throw another weather term at you, a derecho. In other words, a strong line of storms, largely a wind event, bringing hurricane force winds whipping through much of the Midwest. And so what we saw as that panned out yesterday, it toppled trees onto homes, it made a mess of traffic, and it also caused a serious power outage situation. Still today, in just the states of Indiana and Illinois alone, there are more than 200,000 people without power. It comes on the heels of what has been really a week of wild weather. Also in the Denver area yesterday, it was pounded by hail and torrential rains, leading to flooding in streets, engulfing cars. And then the other thing that we're seeing, and we've been talking so much about it this week, such a large swath of the country is being plagued by the extreme heat, potentially what will feel like triple-digit temperatures lingering into the weekend from South Florida to parts of Louisiana, and now moving westward even to areas including Nevada. And so officials are really urging people, if you're in one of those areas, try to limit your time outdoors in that extreme heat. Take advantage of air conditioning. If you don't have air conditioning, take advantage of cooling centers. And of course, Lindsay, hydrate, 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 as we know so many people are going to be outside celebrating the 4th of July holiday.
And you've got that beautiful skyline behind you, but I kind of find myself out here in New York sort of looking up and wondering, okay, is that cloud or is that smoke? What are the conditions air quality wise?
Well, unfortunately, this is somewhat of a familiar situation in terms of the air quality. It's not as severe as what we saw a couple of weeks ago when we saw that apocalyptic orange hue fall over the city. But we are seeing some dangerous, unhealthy air quality levels. In fact, right now, New York City is considered to have the second worst air quality in the world when you're looking at a ranking of major cities. The entire state of New York is under an air quality alert for the entirety of today. So that's why you're seeing masks handed out at different spots. And it's not just the New York area impacted by the air quality, as we see this smoke that continues to be funneled down from an unprecedented start to the Canadian wildfire season. But we've also seen hazy skylines like what you're seeing behind me in Chicago and Washington, D.C., and Pittsburgh, and it has impacted large events, even delaying a baseball game yesterday. And now the good news is we could see some improvements over the course of the weekend. Not only are we seeing some wind patterns change, but we will see some storms, which I know may disrupt those July 4th celebrations, but it does help dissipate some of the smoke. Welcome to relief for sure, Lindsay.
Bear of bad news. Emily Ikeda. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much to you and your crew. All right, well, thousands of Hollywood actors could go on strike tonight if union leaders can't make a deal with major studios and streaming services. Members have already voted overwhelmingly to authorize the strike. More than 300 actors, including some big names like Meryl Streep, Joaquin Phoenix, Jennifer Lawrence, they've signed a letter saying they're prepared to strike if the union can't secure a, quote, transformative deal. SAG-AFTRA is fighting for things like an increased minimum wage to offset inflation, protections against artificial intelligence, which they say threatens their jobs. If a strike happens, it would be the first time since 1960 that Hollywood would face simultaneous strikes by actors and writers. Gotti Schwartz is joining us now. So, Gotti, the writers first walked off on May 2nd. What are the big sticking points still, and how do writers feel about actors potentially joining them?
Lindsay, I mean, the biggest sticking point is just that. I mean, they are coming from a very big position of power right now. They are arguably the most powerful union in Hollywood, being very willing to strike if their demands are not reached. And they know that they're in an advantageous position because the writer's strike has already stopped a lot of production here. But the writer's strike is happening because of about a 10 to 15,000 member union. This one is 160,000 members. And if those 160,000 members join them on the picket line, that could grind pretty much all production here and across the country to a screeching halt. So here are their biggest demands. They want higher pay. They want residuals for streaming. Their last contract came before streaming was the juggernaut that it is right now. They want protections against AI, aka AI using an actor's likeness or voice to either replace them or to create content without sizable compensation. And then there's also the issue, the growing costs of auditioning self-tapes. It's this weird thing that's happening right now in Hollywood that's happened since the pandemic. When an actor goes, back in the day, you used to go line up for an audition, and then you'd see somebody, then you'd do your lines, and then maybe you'd get the part, maybe you wouldn't. Now, all of a sudden, a lot of casting agents and a lot of different studios want to see it taped, or they want to see somebody taped, and that's making actors go out and spend significant amounts of time and amount of their money to try to get a job that they may not get in the first place. So that's another one of the many sticking points that's right now at the negotiating table.
Gotti, we've already seen late night shows go off the air because of the strike. Production's pretty much stopped on everything but reality shows. What other changes could we see?
So if you look back before the writer's strike, there was this mad dash to get a lot of stuff written and banked so that some productions could continue or a script was done and then they may be able to shoot. But this is very different. If actors are not working, voice artists aren't working, then there's really no way for a movie to get made. And movies that are almost made or mostly shot, they're going to have to figure out some creative edits. And if they do get them across the finish line, how do you promote a movie with a red carpet if none of the stars are showing up? That is just on the movie side. So many ripple effects here to consider. Lindsay?
Gotti Schwartz, thanks so much. Good to see you. Coming up, embattled Congressman George Santos silent in court today. What's next in the federal criminal case against him? Plus, more armband controversy for FIFA. What players won't be allowed to wear at the Women's World Cup. That's in our 5 things. Republican presidential candidates flocking to Philadelphia, trying to get support from a controversial but influential group called Moms for Liberty. We're going to take you there later this hour. But first, Congressman George Santos today making his first court appearance since pleading not guilty last month to charges of fraud, money laundering, and theft of public funds. The embattled New York Republican appeared briefly in federal court on Long Island for what's known as a basic status conference as the criminal case against him moves forward. Santos, who didn't speak during the hearing, has denied any wrongdoing. Santos's court appearance today comes a week after it was revealed that his father and aunt guaranteed his $500,000 bond. That's according to court documents that were unsealed despite the congressman's objection. Rahima Ellis joining us now. So, Rahima, what happened at today's status conference? What's the whole idea around that, and what did we learn?
Well, what we learned was a lot in just a few moments. It was a very brief conference, but the federal prosecutors let the court know that they've turned over more than 80,000 pages of documents to the folks of the defense team. That's a lot of documents. We don't know exactly what's in those pages, but that's not just a one-day read, whatever it is. And so that's a voluminous amount of material. And it should be pointed out that he's facing a lot of charges against him, 13 counts. You talked about some of them, but look at the full screen of what these charges are that Congressman Santos is facing. Wire fraud is something that he's up against. Money laundering, the question of theft of public funds, and making false statements to the House of Representatives. So the federal prosecutors have made it clear that they've been doing a lot of investigating, and again, to the tune of 80,000 documents, and that's just what we know that they have sent over in terms of discovery at this point. Whether or not there will be more evidence of discovery that they'll turn over to the defense, we've yet to learn about that.
In that video, it looks like somebody hands him a miniature American flag as he's walking out of that courthouse. Rahima, what happens next in the case?
Well, the next thing that happens in this case is that they will be coming back in September for another pretrial conference. Many people are wondering, when is this case going to go to trial? Well, there's still a lot of discovery to do. And even with that, people say that they're going to be watching very closely because a lot of people were surprised when all of this information came out about Santos. They don't want that to happen again. In fact, listen to what one person said who ran against him for that seat that he's holding now and why he showed up at this hearing today. Take a listen.
George Santos spent a good portion of the last year's political cycle misrepresenting who he was, and too many people failed to notice, to identify what was going on, to be present. I think it's incumbent upon us now to show up.
It should also be pointed out that Santos vehemently denies these charges against him. While he has admitted lying about some aspects of his past, he says he is not guilty of these charges that the federal government is now posing against him. Lindsay?
Rahima Ellis, thank you so much. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Oscar-winning actor Alan Arkin has died, according to his family. He was 89 years old. Just in the last hour or so, flowers were put on his Walk of Fame star. He's best known for the movies Little Miss Sunshine and Argo. Number 2, a court in Brazil today voted to prevent former President Jair Bolsonaro from running for office until 2030. It said he abused his power and spread misinformation about voting. Bolsonaro can appeal to their Supreme Court, but he also still faces some criminal investigations. Number 3, a British prosecutor called actor Kevin Spacey a sexual bully in court today. And he said he, quote, delights in making others feel powerless and uncomfortable. Spacey is on trial over sex offense charges. He's pleaded not guilty to a dozen allegations. Number 4, prosecutors have accused Rust armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed of passing off a bag of cocaine to another person after coming back from her initial police interview. And they say they've got a witness who will back that up. Prosecutors want to keep that person's identity secret. Gutierrez Reed's lawyer is fighting that request. They have said prosecutors are trying to smear her, and she has been charged with involuntary manslaughter in Helena Hutchins' shooting death and with evidence tampering. Number 5, FIFA came out with 8 Women's World Cup armbands today, including one called Unite for Inclusion. It's not exactly the anti-discrimination One Love armband that was banned at the Men's World Cup in Qatar, but it's kind of similar. FIFA said it worked with the UN Human Rights Office to make it. When we come back, the new law set to upend the lives of undocumented immigrants in Florida. Why workers and business leaders are panicking in our original tonight. As we're on the air right now, former President Trump is speaking at the controversial Moms for Liberty Summit out in Philly. You can see him here, the former president, one of 5 Republican candidates for the presidency, getting on stage to talk to one of the most powerful factions of their party, parents. What started as 3 Florida moms fighting COVID restrictions in 2021 has exploded. The group now has something like 120,000 members across 44 states to battle what it calls indoctrination and sexualization of children in schools. And they've had a huge influence at the local level, with candidates endorsed by the group sweeping dozens of school board races and changing what students are being taught. Protesters showing up today outside the summit saying the group's ideologies on things like LGBTQ issues, critical race theory, and book bans are discriminatory. Gabe Gutierrez joins me now. Gabe, Moms for Liberty isn't planning to endorse a presidential candidate. So that said, how important is it for these folks to get exposure here?
Oh, hi there, Lindsay. Well, it is very important. As you mentioned, several presidential candidates will be here throughout the week, and 5 GOP candidates. And right now, former President Trump is speaking right behind me. That's why I'm keeping my voice down. But we've been speaking with people in this crowd. It is a very friendly crowd, and he's getting an enthusiastic response here. And as you said, Lindsay, this is a group that started just back in 2021, and it began in Florida as a way to protest COVID restrictions and mask mandates, but its aims have expanded. And we spoke with several of those attendees earlier today. Take a listen to what they had to say.
Education isn't what it's supposed to be. Transparency and education.
Rather than have the focus be on the education, especially in the core subjects for our children, instead we're focusing on other things that are extraneous and do not need to be in classrooms.
Obviously, the indoctrination of our children and the sexualization of our children.
And Lindsay, this is something that all these presidential candidates are really focusing on. In his speech this morning, Governor Ron DeSantis touched on many of those same themes. The word woke keeps being repeated over and over again. And just a few moments ago, former President Trump talked about how it was important to be here in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, of course, a key battleground state. So certainly this is very important for these Republican candidates to pay attention to this constituency in this GOP primary, Lindsay.
Gabe, I hope you can hear me in your earpiece there with that crowd going behind you. But this conference is happening just weeks after the Southern Poverty Law Center named Moms for Liberty an anti-government extremist group. I mean, they're at the center of a lot of these culture wars we're seeing play out across America and in schools. That has rights groups on the other side worried, right?
Yes, certainly, Lindsay. And that's something that the attendees we've been talking to today have been pushing back strongly on. And yes, the Southern Poverty Law Center labeled Moms for Liberty this anti-government extremist group. And just a few weeks ago, an Indiana chapter of the group apologized after quoting Hitler in a newsletter. Now, I sat down with the co-founders of Moms for Liberty, and they pushed back on that narrative strongly. Take a listen to what one of them had to say to me.
Get involved in politics, get behind your candidate, work to get them elected so that you can make change and influence policy in your community. That is not anti-government, that's anti-woke indoctrination.
And Lindsay, again, they're strongly rejecting that characterization of an anti-government extremist group. And those co-founders are billing this group as a grassroots movement. But the group's critics, they question where the money behind this group is coming from. This nonprofit does not have to disclose its donors. Lindsay?
Gabe, thank you so much. Now we want to bring you today's original with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been keeping an eye on. And tonight, we are just hours away from one of the strictest immigration laws in the country going into effect, this one in Florida. The law signed by Governor Ron DeSantis back in May imposes a lot of rules and penalties for most of Florida's employers when it comes to their hiring of undocumented immigrants. And for those migrants, it could mean the loss of their jobs, their livelihoods, and for many, the place they call home. NBC's Guad Venegas has more.
Tonight, a new law is set to upend an entire way of life for many immigrants in Florida. One of them is Jesus, a farm worker for 18 years. He left Mexico searching for work and a better life. But now, as one of Florida's estimated 775,000 undocumented immigrants, he faces an incredibly difficult decision: either leave or wait until the state forces him to. Telling me he'll work as long as he can here until it's time to grab his stuff and go back to Mexico, adding he has no idea what is going to happen. He's in limbo because Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law as a way to crack down on employers that are hiring undocumented workers, requiring them to use an online database to verify legal status, banning local governments from issuing IDs to the undocumented, and requiring hospitals that accept Medicaid to ask patients about their immigration status. The move's creating panic.
What the law has created is an environment of fear where people believe, that they are at risk.
Studies show immigrants make up 35% of Florida's booming construction industry, but we don't know how many of those are undocumented, while an estimated 47% of the people working Florida fields are undocumented. The Florida Policy Institute estimating losing those workers could mean an economic loss of nearly $13 billion per year and a drop of 10% of the state's total workforce. Fidencio is one of the many migrant workers here in the farming community of Homestead, and he says the consequences of the law will be felt by everyone like him. He says DeSantis is going to be breaking up families, and it's up to God what happens next. It's something even Florida's business leaders are worried about. The people in charge of massive infrastructure projects like Daniel Conci, whose company is tasked with developing the new Miami World Center, a 27-acre, $4 billion project, a worksite employing as many as 15,000 workers.
And it's not just in construction. You're going to see it in all types of service industries. I have a friend that owns a chain of restaurants. He says half of his staff is leaving.
Conci says new immigration reform is needed to fix the problem.
At the end of the day, you wouldn't have the illegal immigration problem if you didn't have a lot of people that were facilitating this in our country.
The governor's office telling NBC News SB 1718 counteracts the effects of illegal immigration in Florida, adding any business that exploits this crisis by employing illegal aliens instead of Floridians will be held accountable. But advocates looking out for those migrants and Florida's economy say the new law will be a devastating blow to Florida's crucial industries.
A lot of these businesses in the agriculture industry are going to have to grapple with the idea of closing shop.
Not too many people are in line for those jobs. So there's going to be a big void.
Governor DeSantis, who's running for president, sees the immigration law as a blueprint for the entire country.
We've established here in Florida a blueprint for success that other states can follow.
Leaving the path ahead for Jesus and others just like him unclear as they hope to find a new home where they can build a new life.
And Guad joins me now from Miami. So, Guad, what options do these folks have on the table now that this law is going to affect in just a few hours?
Well, Lindsay, some of them can stay in the state of Florida. They have been working in the state of Florida illegally. To be clear, it isn't legal to work anywhere in the U.S. for anyone that is undocumented. And the guys I spoke with, both Jesus and Fidencio, told me, there's ways to find work where maybe they don't ask for documents and we can still stay here. So they can stay and wait and see how this plays out, see if the state will be able to enforce these new laws, or they can move to another state. Again, they would still be working illegally somewhere else. The difference is other states have not chosen to crack down on employers because, let's be clear here, elephant in the room in the U.S., when you look at the workforce, agriculture industry, service industry, and construction industry, they depend on undocumented workers, and it's been like that for many years. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in Florida and what type of enforcement can be done by the state once this law begins. Lindsay.
All right, Guad Venegas, elephant in the room. Appreciate your reporting. Coming up, crypto scams have surged since the pandemic. We probably don't even know the real number of victims because so many people, they don't want to admit they were duped. Well, we are going to talk to a reporter who got people to share their stories for our backstory tonight. Plus, you'll never guess how two guys caught this potentially record-breaking catfish. That's later in the local. It's time to get the backstory, our behind-the-scenes look at how a story comes together and how it fits into our bigger picture. Cryptocurrency scams are getting more common, with the total of money lost skyrocketing by 900%, according to the latest numbers from the FTC. That money belonging to people like Noam Lansman, who told NPR he lost $340,000 to a crypto scam. Lansman had been going through a rough time during the pandemic. He lost a lot of clients because the restaurants he would sell equipment and supplies to closed. At the same time, his retirement savings were taking a hit because of how unstable the markets were. So when he came across a post from a company called Spirebit that said it helped people invest in cryptocurrency, he decided to try it. Well, Lansman ended up pouring his entire life savings into his Spirebit account, hundreds of thousands of dollars. He kept checking and seeing that it was growing. They were encouraging him to invest more. By the time he realized it was a scam, it was too late. NBC News reached out to Spirebit for comment. They didn't immediately hear back, but the company told NPR it wouldn't answer questions about any individual case and that the company's activities are regulated by local laws. Bobby Allen reported the story. He's a reporter for NPR. Bobby, good to talk to you on this. This is an upsetting one. These scams, though, they're not unique. They affect a lot of people, and his story is similar to another man NPR talked to. How did you end up finding the specifics about this? How did you get clued into what was happening?
Yeah, so I actually lost my driver's license in Los Angeles, and I went to a local police station in Hollywood. And as I was waiting in the lobby to see if they found it, a gentleman walked in with his son, and he told an officer behind plexiglass, look, we lost our entire life savings, our family's entire liquidity to a crypto scam. And he detailed how this happened, and it was a harrowing, compelling, emotional story. And the two men left the station, and I ran after them with my business card. I said, hey, I'm a reporter, and I think your story should be told. You should call me. And after some weeks, he did, and I tried to get to the bottom of it.
It's not an endorsement for losing a driver's license, but maybe you should hang out in police stations more often. I mean, right. You and your team, you took a deep dive into this company. You found out things like the pictures for the company's CEO on LinkedIn came from stock photos online. I mean, talk about the lengths you went to learn about this company and how far the company was going with this.
Yeah, so if you go to Spirebit's website, it looks shiny, it looks sleek. They have a registration number in the UK. They have a headquarters in London. They refer to a CEO and a founder on LinkedIn. All of that turned out to be a complete sham.
Wow.
When you go on LinkedIn and you look at their photos, they're actually just stock photos that were just stolen from the internet. The identification number that they have is actually referring to a kitchenware company. We sent a colleague of mine to the address that they list in London, and yeah, they sell kitchenware. It has nothing to do with investments. As far as I can tell, it's controlled by Russian speakers, and we don't know their exact location, but they built a really sophisticated artificial company that is, you know, it's scamming a lot of people, and people like Mr. Lansman become ensnared in this and end up losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. And these kinds of scams, Lindsay, are really exploding right now. What they're known as, it's you know, often referred to as a pig butcher scam because they like fatten a pig up and then slaughter it. That's what happened to Mr. Lansman here. He was made to believe his investment was growing. So he started investing more and did that to the tune of $340,000. When he tried to take money out, guess what? It was gone. Poof. He couldn't get it back.
It is so sad what happened to him, what happens to so many others. So that said, I mean, look, you mentioned everything about this company, from the registration number to the sleek website design and the photos. It could probably fool a lot of us. So, you know, with all of your research here, I mean, is this happening more, and what do people need to look out for?
It's happening a lot more. The Federal Trade Commission said, as you mentioned at the top, these cases have grown 900% since the pandemic. Older Americans are especially vulnerable. They hold most of the wealth in the U.S., and cyber criminals like targeting them. All the cyber experts I talked to said there's things you can look out for, right? If you're on social media and somebody tries to get you to invest in cryptocurrency, do not do it. If someone you meet on a dating app tries to get you to invest in cryptocurrency, don't do it. And look, that might sound like kind of obvious advice, like who would pour hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of dollars or more into an investment platform after a stranger on the internet tells you to, but this is how thousands and thousands of people are getting entrapped in these schemes.
Well, didn't they bond over like a common native language too?
Absolutely. So in this case, Mr. Lantzman is a native Russian speaker. He's from Ukraine originally, and his native tongue is Russian. And so the cyber criminals are savvy. They look for people online who speak the language they speak, and they're very charismatic. They're sort of
if anybody out there is
psychologists.
wondering how this could happen, I mean, I encourage them to read your story. And you know, I'm sorry that you had to tell it, but I'm glad that you did, because hopefully it's going to help a lot of people. And Noam, so brave for sharing with you as well. Bobby Allen, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
NBC covers hundreds of stories each day, and because you couldn't possibly read, watch, or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our Northeast Bureau, we're learning more about what might have caused that I-95 collapse in Philadelphia. Federal safety officials said in a new report that a truck driver lost control at an off-ramp, making the truck roll over and catch fire. The report said the tanker truck was carrying 8,500 gallons of gas. Also out of our Northeast Bureau, a 32-year-old woman is facing charges for allegedly posing as a student for a whole school year. Boston Public Schools superintendent said she falsified paperwork to go to 3 schools. She's accused of forgery and identity fraud, according to a criminal complaint. Police say she hasn't been arrested. And from our Southern Bureau, 2 people caught this massive catfish in Texas with their bare hands. It weighs, you see it on your screen, what was that, upwards of 98 pounds? It might be one of the biggest recorded catfish ever caught in the state. They say they swam into a hole 14 feet deep. They got beat up by the fish. After weighing it, they released it back into the lake. And that wraps up this hour. Coverage picks up right now. We're coming on the air tonight with 2 more bombshell rulings from the Supreme Court. What the ruling against President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan means for college education, and how the decision in favor of a web designer opposed to working with same-sex couples could be a watershed moment for LGBTQ rights in America. The new reaction from the president just in the last few hours. Then the biggest holiday travel weekend of the year is finally here. It could be record-setting. What you need to know about these huge pileups of delays and a so-called ring of fire weather pattern. Congressman George Santos making his first court appearance since pleading not guilty to serious charges. How today's hearing now moves the federal case against him forward. Walking off the set, Hollywood's actors saying they too will go on strike, what the group is demanding before they get back in front of a camera. And in tonight's original, we're just hours away from one of the strictest immigration laws in the country going into effect, how Florida's new policies will impact businesses and workers. Hey, everybody, I'm Lindsay Reiser in for Hallie, and tonight we begin with the new reaction to 2 monumental rulings just into us from the Supreme Court. The president now says he'll take a new path forward to provide student debt relief to as many Americans as possible, after the justices killed his student loan forgiveness program that would have erased more than $400 billion in student loan debt. The president saying late today his fight over student loans isn't over yet, laying out some new actions from his administration, like lowering the income-based loan payment cap and removing some penalties for non-payment for a year. President Biden also taking aim at Republicans.
The money was literally about to go out the door. And then Republican elected officials and special interests stepped in. They said, no, no. Literally snatching from the hands of millions of Americans thousands of dollars in student debt relief that was about to change their lives.
On the other side, major figures in the Republican Party are celebrating. 2024 candidate Nikki Haley tweeting, the court was, quote, right to throw out Joe Biden's power grab. when it comes to student loans. And former VP Mike Pence is calling the now axed White House plan a, quote, egregious violation of the Constitution. The court also ruled in favor of a Christian web designer who wants to refuse to work on same-sex weddings, which critics fear could have major ripple effects on LGBTQ rights in this country. Our NBC News team is covering all of this. Shaq Brewster is on the ground in Chicago. Legal analyst Angela Santos joins us as well. Let's go ahead and begin with Monica Alba at the White House. So, Monica, let's start on student loans. We're hearing from the president. He says he's going to take a new path to provide debt relief. How does what the president is saying square with this ruling from the Supreme Court?
Well, Lindsay, I can tell you the president and his top aides are severely disappointed with this outcome. But because they were bracing for the possibility, they were talking, I'm told, for the last few weeks about some contingency plans here. And we now know that this new plan they're going to pursue through the Department of Education under the Higher Education Act. Now, remember, the first plan that was proposed was something that was under the HEROES Act and that COVID-era emergency during the pandemic. And now that we know the Supreme Court obviously blocked that, they're going to go down this different path. And of course, there are major questions, Lindsay, about how that could work here, because it's possible that this new regulation that they're going to look at could face some of the same, if not the actual same, legal challenges down the road, certainly by some courts, and it could again end up all the way in front of the Supreme Court. But before we even get to that, we don't even know what parameters will be taken into consideration for who might be eligible for this and for how much potential relief could come. And this is something that is affecting, as we've talked about, more than 43 million Americans. So the president today was expressing his displeasure, but vowing that the fight is absolutely not over, pledging that he's going to continue to do this. It was obviously a campaign promise for candidate Joe Biden that he's still going to try to make good on. But I just asked Secretary Cardona and other officials here at the White House what kind of gives them this confidence and how they square this. And they simply said that they looked at the legality and they feel that they do have something here they can pursue, but they won't know exactly until the actual rule is written. And that process won't take weeks. It'll take months, Lindsay.
So, Monica, there's this other major case about LGBTQ rights with the justices deciding this Colorado web designer can refuse to work with same-sex couples. What is the White House saying about that?
This was another case that the White House and the president put a statement out, really speaking with dismay, with severe disappointment again about this ruling. And it is one where the president says it's not just about this issue and what it means for the LGBTQ plus community specifically, but that he also says he's concerned that this could be a sign of discrimination for Americans in other communities as well. And I was told by somebody familiar with the administration's thinking today that the fact that this came down on the last day of Pride Month also was just like another blow to this already disappointing situation for the White House and the administration. And they are going to continue to speak out on this. And as you saw the president say in the last 24 hours or so, when he was asked if this was a rogue court, he said this is not a normal court. And he has certainly spoken out against this conservative majority, saying that this is just something different than what the Supreme Court used to do for decades. But when asked if he wants to then change how many justices are on the court, it's something he studied and looked at, but has said that he doesn't think that would necessarily be the answer either. Lindsay.
Yeah, telling Nicole Wallace on Deadline White House yesterday it would essentially politicize the Supreme Court too much for future generations. Monica Alba, thanks so much. Let's bring in attorney and legal analyst Angela Santos. Angela, thanks for being with us on this. What does this website designer case mean, and what doesn't it mean for LGBTQ plus rights in this country?
So to answer this question, I'm going to have to start off by saying that the majority and the dissent really disagree about what this means in terms of an impact for American society. So you have the majority here saying that this is an extremely narrow ruling. All the Supreme Court is doing what it's done in the past many times before, which is prevent a state from compelling a person or a business to give expressive free speech to say something they truly do not believe in. So it's not even about freedom of religion here. It's about whether or not a state can force someone to say something they don't believe in. But then you had Sotomayor giving an extremely powerful dissent here, essentially saying this is the beginning of the end. We are now giving license to people and businesses to discriminate, to actually refuse service to members of a protected class. So what this means is that there's going to be a lot more litigation in the future. We are going to have questions about what is expressive free speech. What is it okay to say or not?
Fascinating. All right, let's talk about student loans here. We just heard the president lay out some plans he now has to help out borrowers. What is the legal path ahead here for the Biden administration now? I mean, according to this decision that we got today, what is he allowed to do?
Lindsay, I'm going to echo what Monica said, which is just there are so many questions here that I respect Biden's confidence in that he believes he has a strong legal path. But I agree that a lot of the same questions are going to arise. And this is because, yes, the HEA, the Higher Education Act, has been used in the past to cancel debt. However, the questions involved here are the scope of how much debt the executive branch can cancel, and $400 billion has never been attempted before. So when the Supreme Court looks at the separation of powers, they do take a look at how much the executive branch is going to affect. And I think the amount is going to keep this in court and maybe go back to the Supreme Court. It is not an easy path for Biden.
We may be over with one term, but we're getting already news about the next one. We're already learning about another majorly consequential case the court is going to weigh in on next term, this time about gun rights. What can you tell us?
So last year, the Supreme Court really did expand the American public's right to carry guns publicly, and that was a big deal that impacted our entire country. But the question is, next year, are they going to curb that right? Are they going to limit it? The case in front of them involves domestic abusers and whether or not it is legal for a state to curb the right of domestic abusers to carry guns. And we don't know what the court is going to say. It's easy to say the court, because it's conservative, is going to keep expanding that right. But often the court, they will expand a right and skip a beat like this term and then try to curb and clarify it. So we will all wait with bated breath to see what this means for victims of abuse.
Okay. Angela Senadella, thanks so much for joining us on this. Let's go to our reporter on the ground, Shaq Brewster in Chicago, who's talking to folks about student loans. Shaq, what are you hearing?
You're hearing really a divide in the reaction to what the Supreme Court did, reflecting the divide that you've been seeing in polling, both in response to President Biden's plan to forgive student loans and now what we know, the action that the Supreme Court took. You know, one thing that the conversations I've been having has revealed is that it's rare to get a Supreme Court decision that would lead essentially to a new payment for many people. There are about 26 million Americans who put in an application to receive some sort of relief. That relief was approved for about 16 million Americans before the court put a hold on this. So many people saying that this is going to lead to a crunch in their budgets. There are plenty of people who are also opposed, saying that this plan from the beginning was about getting votes ahead of the midterm elections. So you really see that divide in some of the conversations I've been having. I want you to listen to a sample of them.
I was like, oh, damn, now I got to reevaluate a bunch of stuff.
We paid them off. They made contracts with the government. They should pay off their loan.
We were actually expecting that. That's going to crush us financially. It gave me a lot of respect towards the president. So it showed me that he's fighting for the American people.
And you say this is someone who didn't vote?
Hey, look at what, I mean.
Yeah, someone that didn't.
So I respect him gratefully.
That gives you a hint that it's not just about the political divide. A lot of this, especially in polling, goes to whether or not you have a loan, and that determines your opinion on the plan to forgive loans, and now the Supreme Court's decision now to stop that plan, Lindsay.
Interesting. Shaq Brewster, thank you. The busiest travel day of the holiday weekend is in full swing, with the TSA expecting a potentially record-setting 2.82 million people to go through airports today alone. But some pretty bad storms, being called a ring of fire, could put a wrench in plans. Overall, an all-time record of 50 million Americans are expected to travel this weekend. That includes by train, cars, and the like. Some airports are already seeing trouble today. There have been about 400 flights canceled, another 5,800 delayed. It's not the crazy numbers we've seen the past few days, but it's still not what people want to see. And that ring of fire we mentioned, well, take a look at your screen. This is fueled by a huge heat dome in the areas you see here, which, if you will, creates this massive ring of storms above it. You can see some damage here where strong winds brought down trees and power lines in Georgia. Heading into the night, more than 20 million people are facing the severe threat of wind as well as lots of rain and large hail. Plus, almost a third of the country still dealing with bad air quality from the smoke from Canada's wildfires. You can see the haze in Detroit, Philly, Reagan National Airport. That could impact travel. It could also impact how people celebrate the holiday weekend. So let's bring in Tom Costello, who's at Reagan Airport just outside of D.C. How are things looking today? Where are the problem spots?
Do you mind if I quickly peek and cheat at my computer down here, Lindsay? Because I've now got a ground stop at Baltimore International Airport, Baltimore, Washington. So that's going to slow things here in the mid-Atlantic. Reagan Airport, where I am right now, we've got a ground delay because we've had severe storms moving through here. JFK in New York, ground delay right now. Also Denver, ground delay. Wow. Denver has been the choke point all day because of severe weather in Denver. It's also a significant and critical United Airlines hub. And so as I continue to look at my monitor right now, I've got a total of, you mentioned 409 cancellations, but listen to this. United right now, they've got 9% of their flights today canceled, 9%, and they're looking at a total of 32% are now delayed. So United continues to be the problem airline in terms of its performance after a week of difficulty with canceling anywhere from 18 to 30% of flights over the last 5 days or so. And then in terms of the most affected airports right now, Denver's #1. We've also got O'Hare up there. We've got Newark up there. And we've got, Houston Intercontinental. What's the common denominator? Every one of those is a United hub. So United continues to struggle. Now, they tell us they really think they're getting back up and running back to normal, but they have been really struggling ever since the storms on Monday. Then they had staffing issues, morale issues, flight attendant problems, union problems. They've spent the whole week trying to get themselves back up and running, but they've still got thousands. In fact, listen, at this point, I think we're talking hundreds of thousands or millions of customers who have been affected this week just with United. Back to you.
Wow. And we know that storms have played a role, Tom, but the FAA is also dealing with some air traffic control shortages. I mean, how long will it take them to hire enough controllers to get rid of this problem?
Well, so right now, the FAA is down about 3,000 controllers or so. Wow. It takes about, they get about 1,500 new controllers a year. However, it takes 2 to 3 years to certify a controller, and they still have people retiring every year. So they are well behind. And the problem is this didn't just start last week, didn't start last year. This started pre-pandemic. Then they had to close the training academy during the pandemic. So they're really trying to play catch-up here. It's not easy. You know, becoming an air traffic controller is not an overnight training exercise. It takes quite a while, and there's a high washout rate. People simply don't cut it.
Tom, thank you so much for your reporting. Appreciate it. Tonight, we're learning a fired Fox News producer just settled a pair of lawsuits against the network and former host Tucker Carlson for $12 million. That's according to her attorney. Abby Grossberg claims she was harassed and set up as a scapegoat in the Dominion Voting Systems defamation case against Fox News. You'll remember that's a lawsuit Fox settled for $787 million right before the trial was going to start. Grossberg claims Fox fired her for going public with her claims. She said Fox News was a toxic, misogynistic environment. Fox News denied the allegations, and in response to today's settlement, the company said, quote, "We are pleased that we have been able to resolve this matter without further litigation." Let's bring in senior reporter Jane Tim. Jane, we just read Fox's statement. Break down all of this for us and what we know about the settlement.
Lindsay, I think the most critical fact here is that Fox News saw some significant legal liability in Grossberg's claims. While initially they had dismissed it and said that she was a sort of disgruntled employee who had been fired, $12 million settlement suggests that there was some liability in her and heft to her claims. Let's take a look at what she said this morning. We also know that she's not retracting her claims. She's not sort of suggesting that she was wrong. She said that she's heartened that Fox News took her claims seriously. And that she thinks she's optimistic about the future of the network.
So reading here the statement, I mean, yeah, you're right. She didn't have to basically withdraw anything. Maybe that was part of the settlement. Of course, we don't know all the terms. But what's next for Fox here? I mean, they still face an election-related lawsuit. That one's even bigger than Dominion, right?
Yeah, this is the third settlement in the Dominion sort of world against Fox News that I've covered. But there's also the Smartmatic, another voting systems company that has sued for even more money than Dominion settled for, and is bullish about their chances, especially after that $787 million Dominion settlement. You can see on the screen some of this lawsuits. Venezuelan businessman was someone who was ensnared in some of the false claims advanced about a rigged election. Dominion, of course, the big one, Abby Grossberg, sort of the collateral damage that got sort of brought out in that Dominion suit. Smartmatic could go to trial as early as 2025. We'll be watching closely for developments in that.
All right, Jane, thanks for keeping up on that. Appreciate it. Thousands of Hollywood actors could go on strike tonight if union leaders can't make a deal with major studios and streaming services. Members have already voted overwhelmingly to authorize the strike, and more than 300 actors, including Meryl Streep, Joaquin Phoenix, and Jennifer Lawrence, have signed a letter saying they're prepared to strike if the union can't secure a, quote, transformative deal. SAG-AFTRA is fighting for things like an increased minimum wage to offset inflation and protections against artificial intelligence, which they say threatens their jobs. If a strike happens, it would be the first time since 1960 that Hollywood would face simultaneous strikes by actors and writers. Gotti Schwartz is joining us now. So, Gotti, the writers first walked off on May 2nd. What are the big sticking points still, and how do writers feel about actors potentially joining them?
Oh, Lindsay, I mean, the biggest sticking point is just that. I mean, they are coming from a very big position of power right now. They are arguably the most powerful union in Hollywood, being very willing to strike if their demands are not reached. And they know that they're in an advantageous position because the writer's strike has already stopped a lot of production here. But the writer's strike is happening because of about a 10 to 15,000 member union. This one is 160,000 members. And if those 160,000 members join them on the picket line, that could grind pretty much all production here and across the country to a screeching halt. So here are their biggest demands. They want higher pay. They want residuals for streaming. Their last contract came before streaming was the juggernaut that it is right now. They want protections against AI, aka AI using an actor's likeness or voice to either replace them or to create content without sizable compensation. And then there's also the issue, the growing costs of auditioning self-tapes. It's this weird thing that's happening right now in Hollywood that's happened since the pandemic. When an actor goes, back in the day, you used to go line up for an audition, and then you'd see somebody, then you'd do your lines, and then maybe you'd get the part, maybe you wouldn't. Now, all of a sudden, a lot of casting agents and a lot of different studios want to see it taped, or they want to see somebody taped, and that's making actors go out and spend significant amounts of time and amount of their money to try to get a job that they may not get in the first place. So that's another one of the many sticking points that's right now at the negotiating table. Gotti, we've already seen late night shows go off the air because of the strike. Production's pretty much stopped on everything but reality shows. What other changes could we see? So if you look back before the writer's strike, there was this mad dash to get a lot of stuff written and banked so that some productions could continue or a script was done and then they may be able to shoot. But this is very different. If actors are not working, voice artists aren't working, then there's really no way for a movie to get made. And movies that are almost made or mostly shot, they're going to have to figure out some creative edits. And if they do get them across the finish line, how do you promote a movie with a red carpet if none of the stars are showing up? That is just on the movie side. So many ripple effects here to consider. Lindsay? Gotti Schwartz, thanks so much. Good to see you. As we're on the air right now, you've got former President Trump speaking at the controversial Moms for Liberty Summit out in Philly. We're going to show you a live shot there right now. The former president, one of 5 Republican candidates for the presidency, getting on stage to talk to one of the most powerful factions of their party, parents. And what started as 3 Florida moms fighting COVID restrictions in 2021 has exploded. The group now has something like 120,000 members across 44 states to battle what it calls indoctrination and sexualization of children in schools. And they've got a huge influence at the local level, with candidates endorsed by the group sweeping dozens of school board races and changing what students are being taught. Protesters showing up today outside the summit say the group's ideologies on things like LGBTQ issues, critical race theory, and book bans are discriminatory.
Gabe Gutierrez joins me now. Gabe, so far we've heard from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, the former president. What's their message?
Hi there, Lindsay. Well, former President Trump's remarks are still underway. He's been speaking now for more than an hour, and that's why I'm trying to keep my voice down. But he is getting a very enthusiastic response here. Many applause lines, including one just a few moments ago saying that he is for eliminating DEI programs, diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is something we have heard from multiple speakers today, and this is also important for those GOP primary candidates that are really trying to speak directly to this constituency. As you mentioned, moms, suburban moms, and this group started back in 2021 in Florida as a way to fight COVID restrictions and mask mandates, but it has now expanded, as you said, Lindsay, to include fighting against what they see and what they call woke indoctrination of children on topics such as race, sexuality, and gender. This is something that has gotten many standing ovations here from the crowd here throughout the day. So you mentioned Governor Ron DeSantis this morning, midday. It was former Ambassador Nikki Haley, and now former President Trump, again, getting a very enthusiastic response from this crowd, Lindsay.
Yeah, we hear it there. I mean, Gabe, Moms for Liberty isn't planning to endorse a presidential candidate, right? So you mentioned suburban women. Why else is it so important for these candidates to get in front of these folks?
Well, listen, we spoke with several of the attendees here, and they're really from all parts of the country, and many of them are somewhat involved with their children's education in terms of actually running for school boards, and that's something that more and more of them say they want to get involved in. Some are former teachers here. Take a listen to what some of those conference attendees told us a little earlier today.
Education isn't what it's supposed to be. Transparency in education.
Rather than have the focus be on the education, especially in the core subjects for our children, instead we're focusing on other things that are extraneous and do not need to be in classrooms.
Obviously, the indoctrination of our children and the sexualization of our children.
So yes, Lindsay, this group bills itself as nonpartisan, but clearly it is very much geared towards more conservative principles, and that is why in just 2 years we have 5 GOP presidential candidates addressing this group. The growth has been exponential, the group says. Now some 285 chapters, the group says, across 44 states, and it boasts more than 120,000 members, Lindsay.
Gabe, what do rights groups on the other side say about this group?
Well, look, this group is extremely controversial. The Southern Poverty Law Center just a few weeks ago labeled this group as an anti-government extremist group, something that the attendees here pushed back very strongly on. But there was one instance where a chapter in Indiana quoted Adolf Hitler in a newsletter. It has since apologized for that. But the protesters here, we've seen several dozen here outside of this convention hall, they believe that this group is anti-LGBTQ, and they did not want them here in Philadelphia to hold their convention. Now, I asked the co-founders about some of that criticism. Take a listen to what one of those co-founders told me.
The point of what I think we need to get at with this is 40% of our moms have never voted in a primary. This is a new voting bloc, which is another reason I think all eyes are on us. We are engaging these moms.
Now, those co-founders bill this group as a grassroots movement, but critics of the organization are questioning where the money behind it is coming from. This nonprofit does not have to disclose its donors, Lindsay.
Gabe, thank you for that reporting. Coming up, tens of thousands of law enforcement officers mobilized around France trying to stop spreading protests. What we're seeing tonight. Plus, remote island rescue, a man trying to set a world record, says he owes his life to the people who picked him up, where he had been living later this hour. Congressman George Santos today making his first court appearance since pleading not guilty last month to charges of fraud, money laundering, and theft of public funds. The embattled New York Republican appeared briefly in federal court on Long Island for what's known as a basic status conference as the criminal case against him moves forward. Santos, who didn't speak during the hearing, has denied any wrongdoing. His court appearance today comes a week after it was revealed his father and aunt guaranteed his $500,000 bond. That's according to court documents that were unsealed despite the congressman's objection. Rahima Ellis is joining us now. So, Rahima, what happened at today's status conference? What's the whole idea around that, and what did we learn?
Well, what we learned was a lot in just a few moments. It was a very brief conference, but the federal prosecutors let the court know that they've turned over more than 80,000 pages of documents to the folks of the defense team. That's a lot of documents. We don't know exactly what's in those pages, but that's not just a one-day read, whatever it is. And so that's a voluminous amount of material. And it should be pointed out that he's facing a lot of charges against him, 13 counts. You talked about some of them, but look at the full screen of what these charges are that Congressman Santos is facing. Wire fraud is something that he's up against. Money laundering, the question of theft of public funds, and making false statements to the House of Representatives. So the federal prosecutors have made it clear that they've been doing a lot of investigating, and again, to the tune of 80,000 documents, and that's just what we know that they have sent over in terms of discovery at this point. Whether or not there will be more evidence of discovery that they'll turn over to the defense, we've yet to learn about that.
In that video, it looks like somebody hands him a miniature American flag as he's walking out of that courthouse. Rahima, what happens next in the case?
Well, the next thing that happens in this case is that they will be coming back in September for another pretrial conference. Many people are wondering, when is this case going to go to trial? Well, there's still a lot of discovery to do. And even with that, people say that they're going to be watching very closely because a lot of people were surprised when all of this information came out about Santos. They don't want that to happen again. In fact, listen to what one person said who ran against him for that seat that he's holding now and why he showed up at this hearing today. Take a listen.
George Santos spent a good portion of the last year's political cycle misrepresenting who he was, and too many people failed to notice, to identify what was going on, to be present. I think it's incumbent upon us now to show up.
It should also be pointed out that Santos vehemently denies these charges against him. While he has admitted lying about some aspects of his past, he says he is not guilty of these charges that the federal government is now posing against him. Lindsay?
Rahima Ellis, thank you so much. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Oscar-winning actor Alan Arkin has died, according to his family. He was 89 years old. Just in the last hour or so, flowers were put on his Walk of Fame star. He's best known for the movies Little Miss Sunshine and Argo. Number 2, a court in Brazil today voted to prevent former President Jair Bolsonaro from running for office until 2030. It said he abused his power and spread misinformation about voting. Bolsonaro can appeal to their Supreme Court, but he also still faces some criminal investigations. Number 3, a British prosecutor called actor Kevin Spacey a sexual bully in court today. And he said he, quote, delights in making others feel powerless and uncomfortable. Spacey is on trial over sex offense charges. He's pleaded not guilty to a dozen allegations. Number 4, prosecutors have accused Rust armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed of passing off a bag of cocaine to another person after coming back from her initial police interview. And they say they've got a witness who will back that up. Prosecutors want to keep that person's identity secret. Gutierrez-Reed's lawyer is fighting that request. They have said prosecutors are trying to smear her, and she has been charged with involuntary manslaughter in Lena Hutchins' shooting death and with evidence tampering. Number 5, FIFA came out with 8 Women's World Cup armbands today, including one called Unite for Inclusion. It's not exactly the anti-discrimination One Love armband that was banned at the Men's World Cup in Qatar, but it's kind of similar. FIFA said it worked with the UN Human Rights Office to make it. When we come back, the new law set to upend the lives of undocumented immigrants in Florida. Why workers and business leaders are panicking in our original tonight. Now we want to bring you today's original with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been keeping an eye on. And tonight, we are just hours away from one of the strictest immigration laws in the country going into effect in Florida. The law, signed by Governor Ron DeSantis back in May, imposes a lot of rules and penalties for most of Florida's employers when it comes to their hiring of undocumented immigrants. For those migrants, it could mean the loss of their jobs, their livelihoods, and for many, the place they call home. NBC's Guad Venegas has more.
Tonight, a new law is set to upend an entire way of life for many immigrants in Florida. One of them is Jesus, a farm worker for 18 years. He left Mexico searching for work and a better life. But now, as one of Florida's estimated 775,000 undocumented immigrants, he faces an incredibly difficult decision: either leave or wait until the state forces him to. Telling me he'll work as long as he can here until it's time to grab his stuff and go back to Mexico, adding he has no idea what is going to happen. He's in limbo because Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law as a way to crack down on employers that are hiring undocumented workers, requiring them to use an online database to verify legal status, banning local governments from issuing IDs to the undocumented, and requiring hospitals that accept Medicaid to ask patients about their immigration status. The move's creating panic.
What the law has created is an environment of fear where people believe, that they are at risk.
Studies show immigrants make up 35% of Florida's booming construction industry, but we don't know how many of those are undocumented, while an estimated 47% of the people working Florida fields are undocumented. The Florida Policy Institute estimating losing those workers could mean an economic loss of nearly $13 billion per year and a drop of 10% of the state's total workforce. Fidencio is one of the many migrant workers here in the farming community of Homestead, and he says the consequences of the law will be felt by everyone like him. He says DeSantis is going to be breaking up families, and it's up to God what happens next. It's something even Florida's business leaders are worried about. The people in charge of massive infrastructure projects like Daniel Kotze, whose company is tasked with developing the new Miami World Center, a 27-acre, $4 billion project, a worksite employing as many as 15,000 workers.
And it's not just in construction. You're going to see it in all types of service industries. I have a friend that owns a chain of restaurants. He says half of his staff is leaving.
Kotze says new immigration reform is needed to fix the problem.
At the end of the day, you wouldn't have the illegal immigration problem if you didn't have a lot of people that were facilitating this in our country.
The governor's office telling NBC News SB 1718 counteracts the effects of illegal immigration in Florida, adding any business that exploits this crisis by employing illegal aliens instead of Floridians will be held accountable. But advocates looking out for those migrants and Florida's economy say the new law will be a devastating blow to Florida's crucial industries.
A lot of these businesses in the agriculture industry are going to have to grapple with the idea of closing shop.
Not too many people are in line for those jobs. So there's going to be a big void.
Governor DeSantis, who's running for president, sees the immigration law as a blueprint for the entire country.
We've established here in Florida a blueprint for success that other states can follow.
Leaving the path ahead for Jesus and others just like him unclear as they hope to find a new home where they can build a new life.
So Guad joins me now from Miami. Guad, what options do these folks have on the table now that the law is going into effect in a few hours?
Well, Lindsay, these individuals have been working in Florida illegally, right? They are undocumented, so they can stay in Florida and continue looking for ways to work in the state. Some of them, like Fidencio and Jesus, told me they have found places where they can pay cash and they can continue working. Others can just leave the state and go to another state. And to be clear, they would still be working illegally in other parts of the country, just in states that are not cracking down on the employers the way Florida has chosen to do so. But we have to think of the workforce issues in America. When you look at the agriculture, you look at the you look at the construction, and you look at the service industry, these workers are essential. So anywhere they go in the country, there is a need for that labor, and that's why they understand if they move somewhere, perhaps it'll be easier. So for now, the workers that have chosen to stay in Florida say they want to see how the state will enforce enforce these new laws. Some of them think it's going to be difficult, so they're going to take their chances, and others have chosen to leave and go to other states, Lindsay.
All right, Guad Venegas, thank you. Coming up, crypto scams have surged since the pandemic. We probably don't even know the real number of victims because people don't want to talk about getting duped. We're going to talk to a reporter who got people to go public. That's for our backstory tonight. Plus, what Mexican officials found on this sub. That's later in the Global. It's time to get the backstory, our behind-the-scenes look at how a story comes together and how it fits into our bigger picture. Cryptocurrency scams are getting more common, with the total of money lost skyrocketing by 900%, according to the latest numbers from the FTC. That money belonging to people like Noam Lansman, who told NPR he lost $340,000 to a crypto scam. Lansman had been going through a rough time during the pandemic. He lost a lot of clients because the restaurants he would sell equipment and supplies to closed. At the same time, his retirement savings were taking a hit because of how unstable the markets were. So when he came across a post from a company called Spirebit that said it helped people invest in cryptocurrency, he decided to try it. Well, Lansman ended up pouring his entire life savings into his Spirebit account, hundreds of thousands of dollars. He kept checking and seeing that it was growing. They were encouraging him to invest more. By the time he realized it was a scam, it was too late. NBC News reached out to Spirebit for comment. They didn't immediately hear back, but the company told NPR it wouldn't answer questions about any individual case and that the company's activities are regulated by local laws. Bobby Allen reported the story. He's a reporter for NPR. Bobby, good to talk to you on this. This is an upsetting one. These scams, though, they're not unique. They affect a lot of people, and his story is similar to another man NPR talked to. How did you end up finding the specifics about this? How did you get clued into what was happening?
Yeah, so I actually lost my driver's license in Los Angeles, and I went to a local police station in Hollywood. And as I was waiting in the lobby to see if they found it, a gentleman walked in with his son, and he told an officer behind plexiglass, look, we lost our entire life savings, our family's entire liquidity to a crypto scam. And he detailed how this happened, and it was a harrowing, compelling, emotional story. And the two men left the station, and I ran after them with my business card. I said, hey, I'm a reporter, and I think your story should be told. You should call me. And after some weeks, he did, and I tried to get to the bottom of it.
It's not an endorsement for losing a driver's license, but maybe you should hang out in police stations more often. I mean, right. You and your team, you took a deep dive into this company. You found out things like the pictures for the company's CEO on LinkedIn came from stock photos online. I mean, talk about the lengths you went to learn about this company and how far the company was going with this.
Yeah, so if you go to Spirebit's website, it looks shiny, it looks sleek. They have a registration number in the UK. They have a headquarters in London. They refer to a CEO and a founder on LinkedIn. All of that turned out to be a complete sham. Wow. When you go on LinkedIn and you look at their photos, they're actually just stock photos that were just stolen from the internet. The identification number that they have is actually referring to a kitchenware company. We sent a colleague of mine to the address that they list in London, and yeah, they sell kitchenware. It has nothing to do with investments. As far as I can tell, it's controlled by Russian speakers, and we don't know their exact location, but they built a really sophisticated artificial company that is, you know, it's scamming a lot of people, and people like Mr. Lansman become ensnared in this and end up losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. And these kinds of scams, Lindsay, are really exploding right now. What they're known as, it's you know, often referred to as a pig butcher scam because they like fatten a pig up and then slaughter it. That's what happened to Mr. Lansman here. He was made to believe his investment was growing. So he started investing more and did that to the tune of $340,000. When he tried to take money out, guess what? It was gone. Poof. He couldn't get it back.
It is so sad what happened to him, what happens to so many others. So that said, I mean, look, you mentioned everything about this company, from the registration number to the sleek website design and the photos. It could probably fool a lot of us. So, you know, with all of your research here, I mean, is this happening more, and what do people need to look out for?
It's happening a lot more. The Federal Trade Commission said, as you mentioned at the top, these cases have grown 900% since the pandemic. Older Americans are especially vulnerable. They hold most of the wealth in the U.S., and cyber criminals like targeting them. All the cyber experts I talked to said there's things you can look out for, right? If you're on social media and somebody tries to get you to invest in cryptocurrency, do not do it. If someone you meet on a dating app tries to get you to invest in cryptocurrency, don't do it. And look, that might sound like kind of obvious advice, like who would pour hundreds, thousands, or tens of $1,000s or more into an investment platform after a stranger on the internet tells you to, but this is how thousands and thousands of people are getting entrapped in these schemes.
Well, didn't they bond over like a common native language too?
Absolutely. So in this case, Mr. Lantzman is a native Russian speaker. He's from Ukraine originally, and his native tongue is Russian. And so the cyber criminals are savvy. They look for people online who speak the language they speak, and they're very charismatic. They're sort of
if anybody out there is wondering how this could happen, I mean, I encourage them to read your story. And you know, I'm sorry that you had to tell it, but I'm glad that you did, because hopefully it's going to help a lot of people. And Noam, so brave for sharing with you as well. Bobby Allen, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
NBC News covers hundreds of international stories each day, and because you couldn't possibly read, watch, or listen to them all, our foreign desk has done it for you. Here are some things they're keeping an eye on in a segment we call The Global. Out of France, today the Interior Minister sent out 45,000 police to address the riots there after an officer shot and killed a 17-year-old at a traffic stop. People now protesting for several days, with hundreds of demonstrators arrested. President Emmanuel Macron told parents to keep teenagers at home. From Mexico, officials said the Navy seized a submarine with about 7,000 pounds of drugs. They think it's cocaine. 5 people have been detained over it. And out of the UK, a British adventurer was rescued from the most remote island in the British Isles after he tried to beat the world record for the longest stay there and raise money for veterans charities. He was there for about a month. He said he was taken out in bad weather, but that he's doing okay. And that wraps up this hour. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.